Jane.
I'm Sarah.
And we're the Yoga Posers.
The Yoga Posers.
So last week we were talking about Utkatasana, and I started the episode by talking about how it is my least favorite pose. Until Sarah said, let's do Garandasana, Eagle's pose. And I was like, oh, no. That's my least favorite pose. And then I checked in with my AI assistant, and apparently it's very many people's least favorite pose. According to Yoga International.
Even the least favorite pose?
It is the number one least favorite pose, even more so than chin stand.
Yeah, the least favorite pose for yoga teachers.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised. There's so many more poses that I dislike more. I like eagle pose.
Yeah, which is going to be cool because maybe she can teach me how to like the pose because, I spent a bunch of time like I always do with my classes this week working on Eagle's pose. And, I'm still to find the grace. I'm still seeking for that.
And we're going to cover Gomukhasana, Reverse Namaste, and Yoga Mudra. So we're just covering the introductory foundational arm movements, binds. What do we want to call them? The arm yoga?
Yeah, gestures, arm gestures, maybe. So Garandasana is the name of the full pose, eagle. It's also the arms, right? Just the arms. So Garuda
is the mythical
bird.
The
mythical bird that basically ends up being a carrier pigeon for Vishnu, which is good. And
carrier eagle.
Yeah, he's a carrier eagle. Yeah, the gods don't have carrier pigeons. Just we do.
That which flies with wings. The swallower or devourer.
Oh yeah, I read that too.
The root. The one who consumes poison.
Yeah. Well, Garuda means wings of speech.
Wings of speech.
Yeah, it's a mythical bird that's the vehicle for Vishnu. And essentially, its wings are formed by the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, which together form a microcosm of the universe.
What? That's amazing.
I know. This asana cultivates the eagle's discerning vision, giving us the power to see the nature of creation with clarity.
This is so beautiful. And can you citing it?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I mentioned it before. It's LePage. It's Joseph LePage. Yeah.
It's a great little resource. And
it's fantastic.
I love this idea in the beginning. It's one of the first verses in the Bible. In the beginning was the word.
Yeah.
And I know that one of my teachers has been fond of saying, you could translate that as in the beginning was the sound. This desire to communicate with each other. We're not solitary creatures, and to make this sound, to call out to another, I need your help, right?
Yeah.
This very first sound of reaching out, it's all about relationship. So first there was the sound, then there were the words, and that was woven into wings, which gives you the mysteries of the universe. It's so cool.
So,
or it's just a regular yoga pose that you can hate.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, your least favorite pose. But on the systems that it works and balances, this is always, it's like everything. So it's endocrine, respiratory, circulatory, lymphatic, reproductive, muscular, and skeletal.
Okay.
So this is a good...
all of them.
You can hit them all, right? So eagle pose. It's a pose where everything's crossing in front. And you're constricting and contracting and making yourself really small. And part of the mythology is that the eagle gets really small to move through challenges. And then when it gets out, it's got this massive opening, which is like creation of clarity and power.
Like accessing the kingdom of heaven is like a camel passing through the eye of a needle.
Yeah, I guess so.
I love how much all of these religious traditions are kind of saying the same things.
Yeah, so Joseph LePage did a nice book on this. They have a intention for this pose, which is a spiral of energy rises up through my being, allowing me to see with clarity. Okay. Yeah.
Because eagles can see really far, like a mouse wiggling in the grasses from a mile above.
That's interesting. That's supposed to offer us some clarity.
To be able to laser beam in, but also be able to see the big picture that it's called Vairagya and Abhyasa.
Yeah.
Get high enough to see the big picture. Don't get lost in the details, but get down in the trenches when it's required of you.
Yeah. That's exactly what this pose is. Yeah. And I think the way it physically feels to me like you get clarity is that you wring absolutely everything out. And in this pose, it's like wringing out a washcloth, right? You're twisting the upper body one way, you're twisting the lower body the other way. And if you find an equal effort in both the upper and lower body, you're right at the center and the core. That's where it's like stable and clear without distortion.
And that's where it leads into some of the common complaints
of
that squeezing inwards now definitely can elicit a vasovagal response in me, the sudden change in blood pressure, and I can feel quite nauseated. So I definitely can't hug and squeeze in like I used to be able to in this pose.
Yeah, and I was telling Sarah too, when I do this pose, you get all wrapped up, you come into a forward bend, come out, and then you get to do the eagle thing, which is the release and the arms up. You get to feel like, woo, that's great. And sometimes I feel a little dizzy. Yeah, I feel a little nauseous.
So I guess you're actually cutting off the circulation to the limbs and really restricting it and then boof, like letting it out.
Yeah.
Body's not happy with that sometimes.
No, and it's supposed to be good for all sorts of health. And they even say cardiac health, right? But for me, I feel like sometimes it'll tip me into a place where I feel like my blood pressure's going up afterwards, which is something that happens. So it's a blood pressure thing, but it's a powerful pose.
Right. So tread carefully if you're elderly like us.
Yeah.
I never had a problem when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, and the other big complaints is like, it's just hard, right? And it's hard on your knee, especially if you're using your upper leg and you pull your knee out of alignment. It's really difficult if you don't find that equal effort in the upper body and lower body because it pulls you into a twerk that's not really comfortable in the joints. And so it's a challenge. And also you really, just like we did in tree pose, you have to use the full leg. You have to use your adductors, your abductors. You want to use the quads. You want to be in the foot, right? Pay attention to the foot because if you've got the full foot, then you're engaging all the way up through the core. Utkatasana will prepare you for this pose.
Yeah, I feel like it's the ultimate midline pose.
It is.
And those abductors, abductors are so disabled at this point because of the extreme adduction. It's hard for them to get a solid, steady contraction here. So this can be a tough balance pose. But, the cues are always hug into the midline.
Yeah. And that's so interesting, the hugging into the midline, because it makes me think of how the body responds in trauma. And really, we want to be guarded and protected. I imagine there's a sense of internal safety and security by completely closing in upon yourself in a way that feels protected.
Right. Such an effortful closing in.
So we'll just do quickly the pose, right? So we're standing, you find a nice stance, you come to Utkatasana on the legs, then you lift one leg up. Let's start with standing on the left leg, lift your right thigh up, cross at the thighs, and then cross at the shins, and maybe you can get your ankle to the other side. So this is where we run into the first problem. A lot of people can't do that, right? And that can have to do with just your ability to hinge in the hips and the ankles and the knees. It also can do with maybe your thighs are too big, which I feel like is my issue right now.
Or you're just not hypermobile in the knee to get that much twist in the knee.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really a helpful thing.
Yeah. And so then what you have to do is remember this pose is about hugging into the midline. So if your thigh comes over and your calf is on the outside of the other calf, pull it into the midline. Right? Everything gets pulled into the midline, and that's going to help stabilize you. It's really helpful for me to take a block and just be able to put my toe on the block. So I don't know. It anchors things down. It allows me to hug in. It allows me to stay in my grounded foot and come into the hinge with the knees forward, hips back. So yeah, so that's the first thing. And then the upper body is going to be wringing out in the other direction. So whatever thigh is on top, that arm is underneath. The leg that's on top is the arm that's underneath because like wringing out a washcloth, one is twisting one way, the other is twisting the other way. And it's that equal effort that creates the stability in the core. So you'll take, in this case, your right arm under the left and you cross the upper arms so that the elbows are just past each other. And then you bring your forearms up so they're perpendicular to the floor, cross the forearms, maybe cross the palms again. So maybe it's a triple twist. But again, either way, wherever you are, there's the connecting into the midline. This is where we're going to spend some time.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about cueing how to get into these poses.
First of all, you're not supposed to have an internal or external rotation in your shoulders. They're just supposed to be neutral, and then you're supposed to adduct the arms. So your shoulder blades move. You're just drawing everything into the midline and then crossing one over the other.
Yeah, I guess you're just really pronating those forearms. So if that last part of the wrap is tricky, that pronation might be sticky, which is pretty common. And that's why that hand rolls out in downward dog. Check out our downward dog episode.
So you get a really nice stretch in your upper back.
This is what it's all about. I think the purpose of the pose is to abduct those scapula and feel a nice stretch there.
You know, and it's interesting because that's kind of the stretch that we typically do throughout the day. I feel like that's the posture we have just working at our desk.
Okay, I've had a lot of discussions with this with my teacher, and some of the fibers can be locked short.
Yes.
Even though the shoulder blades are abducted, some of those serratus fibers are still locked short. So even though to me it never made sense that you would have someone with a lot of hyperkyphosis do eagle pose, it can actually help to improve the scapular rotation.
I guess if you think about it, right? If you think about the fact that our tissue can be fantastic, or it can be locked short, it can be locked long, and the fascia creates real stickiness. So then you have a situation where the fiber is not getting the opportunity to hydrate and move. And so, yeah, even though that's a pattern that seems to be established, you still have to go in there and take the knots out. You got to clear out, break up the stickiness in the tissue so the tissue can move.
Yeah, and if the scapula are parallel, the inner edges are parallel, and then we just have a clean abduction, maybe those fibers are all equal. But a lot of times people with that hyperkyphosis, not only are their shoulder blades too far away from the spine, they're also downwardly rotated. So then some of those lower fibers are actually overly shortened. And so then this pose can help to lengthen those out. And that's when it makes sense in my brain.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, even though those sorts of stretches feel really good in your body, like the back of your neck, the tissue is typically long and weak, but stretching it out feels really good.
Sometimes myofascial body workers actually move the fascia in the direction it already wants to go.
Right.
And then they ask it to go the other way. It's sort of like, okay, let's do it your way.
Yeah.
And then now that you've had a turn, we'll do it my way.
Yeah, I was doing some of that work with a client of mine on her shins, and you move with the fiber and you'll feel all the places where it is just stuck and sticky. And so you're simply trying to smooth it out, right? To get rid of those places where the tissue is unable to open. Because if like your calf hurts and you're like, oh my God, I got to stretch out my calf muscle. If the fascia is gripping tight, you can try to stretch out the tissue, but the container and the webbing that moves throughout the tissue is still stuck rigid. So yeah, you got to get both of them.
Yeah, very nice.
Okay. But so back on, getting that nice stretch in the back of the ribs and how that feels really nice. And then drawing the core in, like squeezing everything in, like wringing things out. I think there's a lot of value into that, because also all of the organs in the core, all the contents of the core container, they can become locked in place too, right? And that's why if you ever get a massage in your core, that's really helpful. And you just have to get past the fact that someone's touching your belly.
Yeah, I encourage students to do a lot of this work themselves, from the bottom line of the rib cage, that costal arch, all the way down to above the pubic bone. It's like an upside down turtle shell, that entire core. There's some very gentle ways to work with that and
break up the adhesions.
Just desensitize a very sensitive, locked up area where all those contents are in fascial bags that are supposed to be sliding over one another, and it gets really, really, really stuck. And a lot of clients don't even know that that's an option to ask for. Everyone just wants their upper back massaged, but this kind of organ work,
right,
very helpful. Abdominal work.
Okay. So let's go back to the arms, because there's a few arm options. That's one of them, right? Is just to double, triple cross your arms. Then it kind of reminds me of, do you remember Zoom? We're going to zoom. Oh, yeah, she's too young. Anyway, they did this thing where they would bring their arms up and they would they'd bring them together and they'd do like this. Hey, 02134, send it to Zoom.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Oh my God. Anyway.
I think I've seen some teachers do it that way though, where they sort of like take their arms out to the side and then they sweep them in really rapidly and hook the elbows. They got a little flair. They use that momentum to hook the elbows. And then with the Garudasana arms, you can slide the elbows up or down and have a different effect.
Yeah. I think the pose is outlined with bring your arm up so that the elbow's in line with your shoulder, your upper arm is parallel to the floor, the forearm's perpendicular, and then adduct, and then come into it. Instead of coming in from upside down, from down or from over.
Low.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people's shoulders are often too low. And one way to tell if your shoulder position is too low, and obviously part of that is the rib cage can be quite depressed or squished, is if your collarbones are parallel to the floor. So we want those collarbones to be smiling so that the rib cage has to lift and the shoulders actually have to be higher. And I would say one of the reasons why people have so many shoulder issues is that the most common cues in yoga are to push your shoulders down and to squeeze your shoulder blades together. And I think if those are your only two things that you know how to do with your shoulder, it's certainly going to get in the way of this pose and lots of poses.
So tell me again about the collarbones. Because are you talking about the clavicle?
Yeah, the clavicle. So the clavicle is the only place the shoulder girdle is attached to the skeleton is at the sternum. That's the sternoclavicular joint. You can find that by going to your breastbone, crawling your fingers up, and there's a little notch there on the left and right. It's the end of each clavicle bone. And then if you really round your shoulders forward, you can see the outline.
It protrudes.
The collarbone protrudes. We're showing it here. So watch this on YouTube or Spotify. And then walk your fingers out to the very end of the shoulder, and that's where the clavicle is there. So when the shoulder's too low, the collarbone is about parallel to the floor, especially when the arm is internally rotated and shifting forward.
So that's interesting, because when I was doing the myofascial training, we had this time where we had a bunch of yoga teachers get up there and we drew their clavicle, and they're very varied. I mean, people have, big circles. People have straight lines. People have one higher, one lower.
Well, but end to end, the outer distal end should be higher. But you'll have a beautiful violin bow type like shapes of the clavicle, and they're very often not symmetrical. But
you don't want the outer point to be level with the inner point. Medial point.
Right. And
medial and distal.
And those people have been pushing their shoulders down. And I think that because so many dancers are in yoga, there's a lot of press the shoulders down to kind of create that graceful line when the arms are overhead. But it leads to a lot of shoulder dysfunction.
Okay. Well, you were going to talk about the Gomukhasana arms too.
For the Gomukhasana arms, that upper shoulder is in a lot of external rotation and shoulder flexion. The bottom arm is in shoulder extension with a lot of internal rotation, and you can clasp fingers.
Yeah.
But I don't have anyone do that because the amount of twisting, side bending, the scapula tilting anteriorly to try to get that bottom arm as far up as it can go, and how far the shoulder head rolls forward. I feel like even though you can clasp hands,
the distortion to get there
is too much. So I equalize it, and everybody uses a strap. And I tell people to have that bottom forearm parallel to the floor or even lower.
Okay.
So that we're just not forcing that arrested position or I've got to put on my winter coat position. These are rotations that the shoulders really, really need to improve, and we won't get there by distorting everything. And then reverse namaste is both shoulders extending. That's when the elbow goes behind, and then the palms eventually press into Anjali Mudra behind you. So we usually call that reverse namaste.
Why can't I do that?
It's so much shoulder extension and internal rotation. I think it's just hard. And then the wrist stiffness to get those palms together.
That's another ask.
Is doubly hard. I do think that there's a lot of structural variation in shoulders that's just coming to be discovered. We're really familiar with the variations in the hip structurally. So the twist of the neck of the femur or the location of the acetabulum, up to 50% of the population is not textbook what we would expect there. And I think they're finding the same thing with the arm bone, because I've had some clients that no matter what kind of work we do to improve rotator cuff access and position and all the alignment is right, and they have all the myofascial work, and they just can't achieve a certain degree of internal or external rotation. It's just structural. You feel that bony stop when you're working with them. It's not a soft tissue stop.
Yeah. Well, I really struggle with those. Yeah. And I also know that when I'm doing them, and I like to do it with a strap if I'm going to do it with a strap, because if I'm trying to get into the pose, I can tell I'm putting my body in a position that's not of service. You know, it's not serving me.
I would have most people, instead of trying to do reverse namaste,
clasp opposite elbows.
I like what you said is the strap behind you.
Strap
Let's
is
just
great.
see if we can get the head of the arm bone back. Let's see if we can get the shoulder heads higher than the hands.
Yeah.
And then not getting it all through a huge back bend in the thoracic spine or even the lumbar spine. Just maintaining Tadasana in the body as you try to get some of these positions with the arms behind you. Like you said, it's just not a position we're in with any frequency or duration in regular life.
Right. And it does give you a lot of nice movement. I like to do that and then come to like a wide-legged forward fold. Usually you'll let the arms kind of continue to rotate. And so there'll be increasing space between your pelvis and your wrists, right? So your arms are straight. They're kind of moving towards with gravity. And then what I try to do is maintain the distance between my arms and my torso, come back up to a stand, and then reach the arms down as I pull the strap. And it's, whoo, it's very, very nice.
So that's all in a standing
after
fold.
I come up, right? So I take the fold to use the gravity to help me get into a little bit more deeper rotation. And then as I'm coming up, I'm holding that rotation, right? I'm not coming
in
back
the arm.
Mm-hmm. And then when I get all the way up, I like finish it off.
Yeah. Do you want to look at your shoulder real quick?
Well, so this is the one where I broke my collarbone.
It's your resting collarbone. Oh, it's nice. Oh, you do have a huge
rainbow
shape. Look at that. But then this is pretty low. Yeah. And so your armpit needs to be, let the arm go. It needs to be there as its resting length.
Okay.
So I would say I think that teacher who advised you to do this and then that is smart because they're getting that side body long as they bring the elbows up. Sometimes I'll roll up a yoga strap and put it on.
My armpits are real sweaty.
Doesn't matter. That's what I do for a living. I'm all in people's armpits and toe cracks.
You know, it's so funny because I do tell people all the time, I'm like, puff up your armpits.
Yeah, I use parts of a yoga mat that have been cut into pieces.
Right.
But you can use yoga straps in a regular class and then put them in people's armpits.
Yeah.
And then just let your arm go and let it rest. And so I call it like holding a newspaper under your arm. Like I feel like people used to do that in the old days, or a clutch purse. I don't know. You put that in your armpit, whatever. But it's just that feeling of that's where the shoulder should be.
Right.
And it's not supposed to be down so low.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it's different than using your neck to support your arm. Right.
So if you take your arm and you lift the side body long, so the outer collarbone is higher than the inner collarbone. You're not side bending, you're not back bending. Bring the arm slightly in front of you, internally rotate it so the palm faces out and the thumb is down. And now your shoulder's out of the socket, so we're going to try to bring it in the socket, perfect. And then push back through your hand towards me. Push back.
Whoops.
Good. Easy. Good. And then we'll just lower the arm, bend it. Good. And now see how it went way down again. So we just lift it up. There. That's it. So you can do it. Okay. It's just not letting that head of the arm bone go so far forward.
You know, if I grab onto the back of my pants, pull on them, and try to lift up the elbow, I get a little more.
But think of I call this the armpit chest. The Iyengars call it that. So this armpit chest gets really close. Can you let it roll forward? Yeah. So we're seeing that head of the arm bone really dives forward. There we go. And the armpit chest is collapsing and that collarbone, even though she's got her big rainbow. I wonder if I'll
be able to get rid of this armpit flap. Let's try it. Let's go up.
So it's like a farmer putting his thumbs under his suspender straps. You're lifting that up. Just go way higher than you think you need to. And this looks very nice.
Yeah, it does look very nice.
Yeah,
and I don't have that
across. Does it hurt your? Go lower. Go much lower.
Go.
Yeah, and now lift the armpit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just giving people permission to lower that forearm a lot.
Woo.
You're trying to improve the position of the head of the arm bone. It's not going to be perfectly
still really
back.
Forward. It's still pretty forward.
Yeah, keep lifting your chest and going up.
I'm trying.
Not back as much as up.
Up.
Yeah. So this is an old Anusara thing. It's like side body long, head of the arm bone up, then back. If you're trying to bring the shoulder head back against the rib cage, it's just too low.
You know what's cool though about this is because we talk about everything comes back to moving from the core, right? And so this is asking me to lengthen the core and almost to take the shoulder girdle and elevate it by lengthening the side body, not using my neck muscles, not using my traps to pull them up. I don't want to come from the top down. I want to lift up from the core, like we've been doing in all these poses.
Right. And if we think of the weight of the arm as pulling down and pulling on the sides of the neck, this is one of the benefit of doing these poses in class is to get that shoulder girdle to be light and to have the shoulder girdle move independently.
Right. If you think of it like a yoke, right? You're walking around with a yoke and you either can like let the yoke sag you down or you can kind of respond into it.
Yes. Ooh. My analogy is the rib cage and the prana, the breath, is like a body of water, and it lifts with the inhale and it goes down with the exhale, but it's this moving thing. And the shoulder girdle is just like a lily pad riding the surface of this movement of the breath. There's lots of confusion in the brain as to where the shoulders actually are. And these poses, by challenging our ability to move through these ranges, helps us locate where body parts are.